You know, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I did my favorite albums of 2020 thus far a little bit early, given this record. Wailin Storms, what I have read, is a quartet out of North Carolina. They make punk rock and a thing called Deathrock. I've never heard of that up until this point. They've been around for almost a decade at this point, releasing their first album, One Foot in the Flesh Grave, in 2015. This album, Rattle, is their third. I essentially found Rattle out like I found a lot of my other favorite records this year by perusing Rate Your Music, and I was kind of sucked into the genre tags: blues punk, death rock, garage rock, noise rock, psychedelic rock. It sounded like a great mixture of sounds that I personally enjoy, so hell, what does this record have to offer? Well, I will say, this record has to offer 8 tracks, 35 minutes of noisy, cacophonous, ominous rock. And I mean, it doesn't cover a wide range of rock. It mainly dives into noise rock and punk rock. It's on the gothic side as well. However, what it does during those 35 minutes are great, like insanely good. To throw the criticisms at the beginning of this video, I will say that some of these tracks do sound kind of similar. There's a samey vibe on this album, and maybe on a few tracks, not all of the songs, but on a few tracks, the way the guitars are kind of layered into the mix, they all kind of sound muddy. It all sounds very close together, almost as if they're just kind of mixed together. So instead of this very visceral rock sound, you're almost getting this wall of noise that's hard to penetrate. So with those moments out of the way, and maybe a few other nitpicks here and there, this record, however, is great from front to back. The title track of this record is the opening track as well, and man, does it start off this album. You start off with these kind of Lonesome West kind of guitar tones that slowly, gradually become more present in the mix. Everything's slow, everything's eerie, the vocals are wailing out, basically repeating the title of the song, Rattle, which happens on a lot of these tracks. Again, the songwriting could have been a little bit better. It does kind of remind me of maybe a Swans song, but more gothed out. There's an amazing transition into the chorus where it's just this constantly rising instrumentation, and it's getting louder, more intense. It is probably the most visceral song on this album. It is probably the best produced song on this record, and it's an amazing opener, really a perfect opener for this album. And on one hand, I love that. On the other, it does lead me up to wanting that high reached again on this album, which unfortunately for me, it doesn't. However, there are songs that come close to it, no doubt. The following track, Rope, starts off with these very dark drum rhythms that then explode into the chorus of the track. There is kind of like a nihilistic, suicidal tone to this track, especially in the lyrics. It's almost as if it's kind of like saying a fuck you. Take this rope around my neck and wrap it around the tree above my head. There's also the track Teeth, which has a very torturous mindset in the lyrics. It's repeating the phrase, take my teeth out one by one. And while the songwriting on this record is repetitive, there are moments like Teeth that are just insanely catchy and surprisingly catchy for an album of this caliber. Again, sometimes the sheer intensity and ferocity of this record just makes me so excited. There's almost this primal instinct that I get while listening to this album. It's just so gothed out, it's so punked out, it's just so intense at some moments. I did not expect to love this album as much as I do. Despite it being so short, I also think the brevity works in its benefit. However, for the future, I would love to see them be a little more ambitious. And again, another problem that arises on this album is that some of the tracks feel a little samey, which is one of the main reasons why I'm not really going over all of these tracks. Because most of the time you have the same guitar tones and just gothic vibe of a song repeated throughout this album, which is fine. I do like a very similar mindset for all the tracks. Sometimes it does feel a little samey. The track Sun in particular stands out to me, maybe because it's the most unique song on this album. There's a more intense vibe on this track. The tempo is a lot faster. The just general song at the core of this is more frightening. And forgive me for this comparison, this band does not really represent the sound of this entire record. It's just the first thing I thought about when I was listening to this album. There are some guitar leads and tones on this record that remind me of Chevelle. I don't know, it's just the most obvious comparison for me at least. Again, please don't make that, I guess, take away from you checking this album out, because it definitely, again, does not sound exactly like Chevelle. It's just the guitar tones, again, remind me of some Chevelle tracks. I will admit though, Chevelle is a kind of underrated band, and some of their early work is pretty good, but I digress. Check this album out if you're looking for some really gothed out, punky death rock. If you're looking for some amazing, again, gothic rock, this is totally up your alley. There's a general haunting vibe and eerie aura surrounding this record, but it's also very ominous and very evil. And maybe the band does wear their influences on their sleeves a little bit on this record, or maybe just in general, but still, there is so much to enjoy on this album. Yeah, great record right here. Please check this out if you're curious. For me personally, it is the most aggressive of A minuses. However, I am curious to know what your thoughts and opinions on this album down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next, and that is it. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below. Remember, this is only my opinion, because music is subjective.